But as the only Trump voter here, I don't agree with anything any of you are saying. And the important thing is a new Q poll that came out on April 15th this week that shows the president still has the support of 88% of the Republican Party. Same poll at the end of the Biden term had him at 71%. Trump is immensely popular with the Republican base, despite all of the things you might say. None of you are Trump voters, and that's fine. Yep. But don't speak for Trump voters. We don't agree with what you're saying.
Many Trump supporters are getting worried because his poll numbers keep dropping. Even some of his strongest fans seem to be having doubts now. In this video, we look at a TV discussion on Abby Phillips' show. A strong Trump supporter named Joe Borelli seems to lose his temper during the debate. Meanwhile, Sikup, a conservative who has never supported Trump, strongly criticizes his supporters. There's a lot to talk about here, plus some important ideas about what this means politically. Let's dive in.
It's no secret, many in MAGA aren't too thrilled with Donald Trump for some portions of the things he's been doing now, from the Epstein files to the economy and now the war. They say he promised to never start. Many of the loudest people who helped get him elected are starting to say they have buyer's remorse. Our friend S.E. had this to say to many of them after the president's threat to wipe out a civilization.
You and your buyer's remorse. Who would listen to you now? Who would listen to you? You got us here. You voted for him. You told everyone they have to vote for him, right? It's going to be World War III if you don't vote for him. Give me a break. No one cares what you have to say anymore. We told you so.
But some, particularly on the Democratic side of the aisle, are opening their arms.
The thing that has been very fascinating, especially about Marjorie and Candace, is that they are not just coming out like the other ones that you'd mentioned, where they're saying this action is wrong, right? They're saying, I am done with you.
Yeah, it's like a values-based, like
right.
This guy is bad, not like this policy is bad.
Right, and I think that we should give them credit for that.
The message cannot be, I told you so. The message has to be, welcome aboard. What else can we do together?
Essie, you are by no means a MAGA defector. You were never in
early
that
and often to never Trump.
Early and often. You screamed no. No to what?
I have been out in these streets too long, Sarah.
In these streets?
I have been out in these streets since 2015, opposing this un-American, anti-democratic, fascistic garbage. And while at the same time, these people that they're mentioning, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, that name them, the long list, have been defending it for fun, for money, for clicks, for fame. There is not all converts are created equal, and we should not. It's not just for Democrats to decide. It's for Never Trumpers who are conservative as well to decide. We should not be aligning with people who are losers, liars, and grifters, who have only come to see the light because either it's politically expedient or it's profitable or whatever. Now, I say to voters who have lost their appetite for Trump, absolutely. Congratulations. I'm sorry he disappointed you. I know exactly how he did, by promising you things he's completely ignored. I get you. Come on over. The water's warm. But for the professional liars, losers, and grifters, no, we don't want you. And just because you've come to where we have been for 10 years doesn't mean you get to use us to launder your reputations. Not happening on my watch. And I don't like this conversation where it's like, well, shouldn't we give them credit? No credit. It's at the 11th hour. It's the 11th hour of this. He is a lame duck. He is gone in 2 years.
Guys.
What took you so long? I'm sorry. Somebody stop me or I will just...
I agree with one big point Sikup made. Democrats shouldn't welcome people like Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly with open arms. These people are just noticing that the MAGA movement might be losing steam, so they want to protect their own future. But that doesn't mean Democrats should suddenly accept them into the party. There's a big difference between political pundits looking out for themselves and real voters. Democrats have struggled with this for years, always hoping some imaginary Republican voter will come save them, instead of focusing on the people who already support them. Most strong MAGA voters won't suddenly switch to voting Democrat. And pundits like Sikup, even though she's against Trump, won't join the Democratic Party or support ideas like Medicare for all or spending less on foreign wars. Instead, these people will try to push Democrats to become more conservative. Many believe this is where Democrats go wrong, spending too much energy trying to win over Republican voters and pundits, instead of building stronger support among the people who already back them.
Yeah, exactly.
This is personal. I've gotten death threats. I have lived this life at the expense of profession, at the expense of friendships, at the expense of money. I've done it. It's been hard, but it's my conscience telling me to do it. You don't get to flip a switch and say, I don't like him anymore. Can I be with you guys? No.
Do you see who she's talking about, who are constantly out there and were very supportive, and now they turn on some things, not all things, but they turn on some things very differently than you see, for example, a Liz Cheney or someone in that camp who
fundamentally different.
Yeah.
Should
the Democrats open their arms to, I mean, Liz Cheney is very conservative.
No. What I think is
Exactly. Many people think Democrats made a big mistake by welcoming Liz Cheney. She is still very conservative, and she only turned against Trump because of the conflict between her family and Trump's attacks on her father. Before that, she spent years attacking Democrats and supporting policies that go against what most Democratic voters believe in. That's why many critics thought it was a huge mistake when Kamala Harris campaigned together with her. The idea behind this strategy was that moderate Republican voters in the suburbs would switch to the Democrats. But many people argue those voters were never going to switch in large enough numbers to make a real difference. Instead of chasing these unlikely Republican voters, many believe Democrats should focus on energizing their own supporters with progressive policies that truly connect with working people, instead of continuing to shift further to the right.
righteously is a deep frustration at the folks who enabled this.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden are trying to say, wash their hands.
Too much for me.
Who could have known that it would turn into this? Anybody. After January 6th, anybody could have known this if they chose to pay attention to what he'd said and what he'd done during the first term, particularly if they were self-described conservatives.
Joe,
But hold on,
he's not done.
but a successful pro-democracy movement. Look at what just happened in Hungary. Look at the study of successful pro-democracy movements. They've got to be positive, patriotic, and inclusive. Positive, patriotic, and inclusive. So it's good to castigate the corruption and the rising costs and the cronyism and the chaos and cruelty, all of that. But you got to welcome people in and set a big tent message. And so there shouldn't be purity tests in a pro-democracy movement.
For voters. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like 5 minutes ago, was still saying that the insurrectionists were patriots.
Right.
Are patriots. These are people who would still vote for Trump if they were in his favor. I'm sorry. We need to be skeptical of the folks who are claiming us in their name. I'm not talking about voters. You're right.
I come at this from a foreign policy perspective. I've, 10 years of following Trump. Everyone thinks they know what his foreign policy doctrine is, right? Oh, he campaigned against intervention. He campaigned he's going to be tough on China. Now he campaigned he's going to make a deal with China. No more wars, no more globalism. And sooner or later, everyone figures out that Donald Trump has no core foreign policy principles whatsoever. And they change all the time based on whoever he talked to last. Maybe he has a financial interest. Maybe his kids have a financial interest. Maybe he just gets talked into it by another foreign leader. And so, of course, if you stake your sort of foreign policy identity on no more wars, and we're not going to do Middle East interventions, we're not going to send young American men and women to fight and die in a far-off place for unclear reasons, unclear justifications. Well, the Iran war is the opposite of all of that. So he's forced all of these people who claimed that they were for Trump's foreign policy to either pick between their own integrity or following him to the exact opposite foreign policy. And some of them are going to follow him, and some of them are going to maintain whatever semblance of foreign policy integrity they have left. And they're both bad choices because they're both based on this premise that Donald Trump actually has a view of the world and America's role in it that isn't liable to change tomorrow. And guess what? It's going to change tomorrow again.
Joe, what do you make of what you're hearing from the Megyn Kellys and the Tucker Carlsons and Benny Johnsons?
I think Essie's right. I think these are people who are grifters. They're going for clicks, payments, or their own aggrandizement, and they flip because it's politically expedient for them or profitable for them, and that's fine. But as the only Trump voter here, I don't agree with anything any of you are saying. And the important thing is a new Q poll that came out on April 15th this week that shows the president still has the support of 88% of the Republican Party. Same poll at the end of the Biden term had him at 71%. Trump is immensely popular with the Republican base, despite all of the things you might say. None of you are Trump voters, and that's fine. Yep. But don't speak for Trump voters. We don't agree with what you're saying.
What really worries me is that Democrats might actually listen to advice like this. Joe Borelli is a lost cause. He'll stand by Trump no matter what. But when Asikup and others talk about building a bigger tent to include more conservatives, I completely disagree. This week, I saw a social media post from someone I grew up with, probably the biggest Trump supporter I know in real life. I still see him at the gym, but we just talk about sports because politics became too hard to discuss years ago. He used to treat Trump almost like a hero. But recently, he posted a video criticizing Trump over selling off national lands. It's interesting, he was fine when Trump's policies hurt other people, but now that it affects him personally, he's suddenly upset. Even so, he's still not going to vote for a Democrat. He won't suddenly support Gavin Newsom, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or any future Democratic leader. Instead, he'll likely support J.D. Vance, Tucker Carlson, or whoever leads the Republican Party next. Democrats simply aren't going to win over voters like him. Some people may turn against Trump personally, but that doesn't mean they're leaving the Republican Party. This is why Democrats shouldn't keep chasing Republican voters or never Trump conservatives. If some of them truly admit they were wrong, not just about Trump, but about big defense budgets, tax cuts for the rich, cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, and excessive foreign spending, and if they genuinely support stronger social programs and different economic policies, then fine, welcome them. But most won't do that. Instead, they'll try to push Democrats to become more conservative. That's why many progressives think people like Sikap should focus on fixing their own party, or even start a new conservative movement, instead of trying to change the Democratic Party. The idea is that Democrats should move in a more progressive direction, not become more conservative just to attract voters who were never likely to support them. I do agree with one point Cup made, though people like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly can see that the MAGA movement might not last, so they're positioning themselves for whatever comes next. That's just how media personalities survive. But that still doesn't mean Democrats should bring them into the party. So here's the real question: do you agree more with Sikap or with Joe Borelli? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next breakdown.